Ah, thank you. Yeah, I just noticed, like, I don't think my audience has showed up yet. So, anyway, hello, everybody. Welcome to Tom's Guitar Show. I'm Tom. They call me Guitar Tom because I'm often seen with a guitar, and they call me on the phone. They say, "Hey, man, what's your show about?" I say, "Well, it's about an hour about guitars, guitar playing, guitars, and all things guitaristic. Guitar players." Yeah, that's. Of course, this is not the call-in show because we're up here at Uptown Bill's Coffee House, as we are every month at this time, the last Tuesday of each month. And just have a nice, relaxing little show here on a sunny early evening, end of September. But next month, we're going to have a classical guitar extravaganza. So I thought what I'd do is I would sort of do a little test run with my classical guitar. Well, one of them, I have a couple, but you know, and just see how it all like works out. Because next month I'm going to have a lot of guests, and they're going to try to play some very complicated music and stuff. But anyway, so that's my story. Anyway, so this is my this is a Mattingly guitar built by Robert Mattingly, Long Beach, California, 1983, and I bought it new. Anyway, thank you. Oh, that was charade. So, anyway, so I've had trouble with attendance today. Of course, a lot of people, so they might come down to the coffee house. If you're watching this on Tuesday and you have nothing to do and you're near downtown Iowa City on the near south side, shall we call it, south of Buke Street at Lafayette is Uptown Bill's Coffee House. We're going live cablecast, so come on down. The other problem I had with attendance today was because we could use a little audience here, so come on down if you want. You know, heck, I'd buy a cup of coffee. You know. But I teach at Co College in Cedar Rapids, and I had one person quit, and I had an hour off anyway, and I had somebody not show up, so I had 3 hours of nothing to do in my little office. So what I did was I went through a bunch of, I had this guitar. This guitar, I've been neglecting this. This is a long scale, big shot, concert classical guitar. It was a really big deal when I got it 32 years ago. But I've been playing all kinds of other things. If you watch my show, I've gone through a lot of Stratocaster obsessions and the steel string guitar obsessions and electric classical guitar. This one is just a straight ahead, really well built, made by one guy. Classical guitar, and I have been neglecting it, but I restrung it, I shined it all up. There were some cobwebs inside, and I've been playing it. So what I've also done is I've dusted off some of my old compositions that I used to write, when this guitar was new, back then. The products of my young mind. So I figured I'd play some of those. So this is, I'm going to play 3 of the 7 love songs, that a collection that I composed, I was in my, shall I date myself? I don't mean take myself out on a date, but I mean, I was in my 20s. So, long ago and far away. So anyway, here are 3 of the 7. Thank you, all of you. Anyway, so the roar of the crowd, yeah. Speaking of the roar there, so Bob, do you have words of wisdom for us up there?
Oh, a few.
Okay, well, Bob has sort of become the philosopher on the show now, by default, perhaps, but.
I just pass along the philosophies of others. And one of the poets of the 60s, Paul Simon, said, the words of the prophets are written on the subway walls and tenement halls.
Yeah.
Well, these days, the words of the prophets are written on T-shirts and bumper stickers.
Ah, okay.
So I brought a few of those along. I do not suffer from insanity. I enjoy every minute of it.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are alive because it's illegal to kill them. I used to have a handle on life, but it broke. Don't take life too seriously. You won't get out alive. You're just jealous because the voices only talk to me.
Mm.
Beauty is in the eye of the beer holder.
Beer holder?
Beer holder.
Yeah, beauty's in the eye of the beer holder. That's great, yeah.
You know, the girls all get prettier at closing time and all.
Yeah.
Earth is the insane asylum for the universe.
Mm.
I'm not a complete idiot. Some parts are missing. Out of my mind. Back in 5 minutes. I want to die in my sleep like my grandfather, not screaming in terror like the passengers in his car.
Oh.
God must love stupid people. He made so many of them.
Hmm.
The gene pool could use a little chlorine. It is as bad as you think, and they are out to get you. I took an IQ test, and the results were negative. Consciousness is that annoying time between naps.
Yeah.
Ever stop to think and forget to start again?
It's even better.
Cat, the other white meat.
Yeah.
Beer, the reason I get up each afternoon. Politicians and diapers should be changed often and for the same reason. Honk if you love Jesus. Text if you want to meet him. A flashlight is a case to hold dead batteries.
Mm-hmm.
A closed mouth gathers no feet.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody lies, but it doesn't matter because nobody listens.
That's well, that's great. That's words of wisdom for all of us. Right? That was very good there. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's very good.
Or you could groan.
Yeah, we could groan. Usually I groan, but that time it was well, these are the words to live by. Some of them, but like that one, like I want to die in my sleep like my grandfather, not screaming in terror like his passengers in the car. But anyway, that's pretty good. Which reminds me of the joke, I saw on the sign that the Nesper sign company advertising always has these, dare I say corny when I'm in Iowa? Jokes, anyway. And it was, what did the left eye say to the right eye? Or vice versa. It said, between you and me, something smells. So, yeah. Wasn't that good? Anyway. I was thinking about doing. I was playing this thing. I hadn't played it in years, and I just ran through it a little bit this afternoon in all my free time. And this one was Prelude number 10. I composed 12 preludes, and I think the thing about like etudes and preludes, a lot of times they're for the composer to learn. Like Villalobos wrote his etudes and preludes for guitar, but that was so that he could learn to write for guitar. It was about a composing thing. So this is number 10 out of 12, and it was like the reason I got this guitar, because I had to. My little old Spanish guitar didn't quite have as much get up and go. So I'm going to try to play this thing, and if I crash, nobody gets hurt. If I fall asleep at the wheel, you know. So here we go. Okay, that's right. Thanks, yeah, both of you. Yeah. That's hard to play. But it was, seemed about composing for the classical guitar. I used to spend a lot of time on it. Now I just do very much live looping and stuff. But I had a friend who was getting a master's degree in composition at the University of Iowa. And we were high school kids together and stuff. We played music together and stuff. But he actually hired me to because he wrote the score to a Shakespeare play the university was doing, which is kind of fun because I played lute with It Was a Lover and His Lass, and then the rest of the time I played in the pit orchestra, playing the string bass, which I thought was kind of fun. But he wrote the score, and so not only did I get this gig, which paid very little, but I wore tights and a doublet and everything like that, and I was out there with on the stage, and I had makeup on and everything, and because I was with all the guys, with all the other actors, it was a lover and his love, so the hey and the ho and a hey nanny no, but I was playing lute because I borrowed a lute and I used to take lute lessons. But I think when the review came out in the Daily Iowan newspaper, the reviewer was Judith Green, and she was. I'm not sure if she was happy with her lot in life. She was one of those kind of reviewers, So she said of his score that it was dismally sophomoric. I thought, wow, dismally sophomoric. I thought, and it kind of hurt the guy's feelings, I guess. My buddy John, he was, I thought, a talented musician, and that was a really fun score, I enjoyed it.
But was he a sophomore?
Yeah, I don't think he was a graduate student. So anyway. So when I composed things, I wanted to study composition as a youth, but I didn't like the way things were being taught in the academy at the time. So I decided to be very independent, and I took classical guitar lessons and some jazz, and I played a whole lot of gigs and had experiences. But I didn't like the way composition was being taught at the time. I wanted to know what Maurice Ravel knew. And anyway, so anyway, this is, I'm just trying to play my own stuff. Thank you. That was, so I had the 7 love songs, and then I had the 5 lugubrious sketches. See, because I always like the word lugubrious. And, which reminds me, I wanted to compose some stuff. I have these ideas rolling around, but I've always had trouble finding names for stuff. You know, like Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, like, you know, 20 years after the fact or something, was a very popular piece, and it was a reviewer or a music critic who gave it the name Moonlight because it was like moonlight to him or whatever. And it wasn't Beethoven who gave it that name. It was just, you know, sonata numbers so-and-so in C minor or whatever like that. But, you know, people always ask you to come up with names for things. So I was thinking of one of 3 German dances. I have these words I've been collecting, like Eigengrau, which is the gray color you see if you walk into a pitch black room, because your eyes don't really see pitch black; they see this grayish color. See, so it's this unusual gray, you know. And there's also Schadenfreude, you know, the taking pleasure from other people's misery. And there's another one. I'm trying to remember what it was. I have it saved on my computer as a word that I just heard, which is something about there's a brief feeling of melancholy you get about the state of the world. So I thought I'd have 3 German dances, and I'd have these somewhat obscure words. So of course, a lot of people know Schadenfreude, but anyway. So, gee whiz, young Tom, do you have something for us here? A contribution to the... okay, well, come on up.
Do you mind if I brought a chair with me?
You know, you can do whatever you want to do. Yeah, you have a chair, so I guess it makes you chairman. But now to take the gender out of it, they call you the chair. So, so if you don't have a chair, you are the chair. Say, oh, wow, man, be the chair. Never mind. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm just
New use for the word chair.
Yeah.
First of all, I hadn't heard Judith Green mentioned in years.
Yeah.
She was a theater critic in San Jose
Really?
when I lived there.
She must have moved on from here.
She worked for the San Jose Mercury News.
Oh, yeah.
And I was doing some theater producing. I ran into her a number of times.
Like what era was that?
This would be 1987, 88, 89.
Okay, yeah, that's probably about the time she left. Do you know the way to San Jose? I'm sorry.
Anyway, it was.
Yeah.
I was just startled because I hadn't thought of her in a long time. She died about 10 years ago.
Oh, really? Oh,
Relatively young, cancer. I think
that's too bad. Yeah.
2005, somewhere in there.
Okay, she was. I know she was here in the 70s and the earlier 80s when this came to pass was probably the early 1980s that I remember I used to. Well, I had I had a girlfriend once. Well, I've had, you know, I was in relationships, but a reporter and the features editor for the Daily Iowan was.
I see.
So I used to go to, because she had these comp tickets.
Uh-huh.
So I remember Judith Green sitting behind us, and she was asking me questions because I think it was something that I knew, something like classical guitar or something like that.
Yeah.
And she was asking me. So and I remember that was probably 1980. So. Anyway.
Yeah, the thing that that sticks in my mind was that she was always such an advocate for the audience. That's really how she saw herself, at least by the time that I met her. And at times would step over that line, if you will, and tell the director of a show or the conductor of a symphony how they should be doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And this got her into trouble in a number of different ways.
I think the word that I used to describe some of her reviewing when she was here was caustic. So.
Well, I don't remember that so much, but when she was enthusiastic, I remember she was really enthusiastic about things.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, at a couple of shows that I worked on, there were like 5 reviewers there. You know, it was just an incredible time in terms of theatrical reviewing.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have the Merc, as we called it, and then there were 2 San Francisco papers, and they had full-time critics. And then you had the alternative papers as well. So it was, you could almost have an audience of nothing but reviewers.
Mm-hmm.
at that time. Now and they were all full-time people working for the papers.
Yeah, back when people were working for the presses and it wasn't we're just relying on bloggers. So.
Well, it was unusual because only the biggest papers had full-time reviewers. So many papers relied on freelancers. So I had a neighbor who did that for many, many years, was a freelance reviewer. And she was often called when the full-time one was already engaged. But Judith sometimes would like go to 2 or 3 things in one night, Zoom from San Jose to San Francisco and back.
I couldn't do that. Especially if it were a show I didn't want, I'd have to go. Because sometimes I want to just go hide in the basement and put a blanket over my head.
I think her friends worried about her too, because she would. I remember telling stories about almost falling asleep, but just too many times. So hearing those stories. Do you know that today's National Coffee Day?
This is National Coffee Day.
Yeah, this is it. This is the big day.
I hear it is late in the evening. Late enough. I don't want a cup, but I have some with her.
I'm going to say if anybody comes down for the show while we're in the live broadcast mode, which is Tuesday, comes down before the end of your show, we'll give them a free cup of coffee.
Yeah, I was going to buy anybody a cup of coffee if they want one.
Yeah, so there. I think I know where people are today. It's fall. The hint of fall is in the air, and so people are thinking, oh, that's it. We're done. I better get out, do something. It's usually the second weekend in October when you really know that summer is gone.
It's too late now. Huh?
So my birthday falls in there, and if you're going to do something outdoors, I've always said I should do it on the first weekend of October, because by the second weekend the weather has turned and it's cold.
And that's your birthday is the second week of October?
It's the 8th.
8th October.
So it's usually right in between the first and second week.
You'll be 29, won't you? Again.
31.
31. Oh, okay.
31,
Okay.
And then you all are engaged in television.
Oh, yeah.
And as your neighbors, I think you should know that we're working on a radio station. We have a license to operate a radio station. Broadcast KICI is the name. And there are folks meeting every week or so on programming. And as you know, one of our big questions has been where to have the antenna or the tower. And it looks like we'll probably use a tower that's inside old brick. That's the most likely spot. So one will not drop down in your backyard.
That's fine. But old brick is kind of centrally located, though.
Yeah, and it already has the stuff in there.
It's up the hill.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The rule is as big as you can, as high as you can. It stays up all winter as long as it's big enough or high enough.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay. I can't hear you from, I'm afraid, but yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah.
So,
Although I assume it's FM in there, those antennas are relatively small.
Yeah.
100 feet tall is what it needs to be. So 100 watts is roughly a 5-mile radius. So in my silly moments, I call it the shot heard round the block.
The shot heard around the block. But you can, hey, they'll be able to hear it in Coralville.
That's right.
Much of Coralville.
And part of North Liberty.
Oh, yeah. Hey,
You sort of draw a circle.
how about Tiffin?
There used to be a pirate station downtown. That's about what it was a block or two.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just near the Dairy Queen. It was downstairs a block away from the Dairy Queen. Yeah. But we're legit. And although that was one of the questions they asked us when we had to answer all these questions when we applied. Are you a community group? Are you well established? Do you have a board of directors? Have you ever been involved with a pirate radio station?
I want to know, yeah. They were, yeah.
So.
No, not me. No, yeah.
Anyway, it's interesting because, here we are, this tiny little place working with the Federal Communications Commission, which is this giant federal agency. But it's worked out fine. They're a person who calls us and answers our questions, just like some small...
Like a normal human being. Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. At least it reminds me so much of when you work with the county, which is our neighbor here, that, it's a very almost informal kind of thing. You call up and ask a question and, oh, okay. And they call you back and give you answers. So anyway, really pleased about that. And then I wanted you to know there's going to be another live show here this week. excuse me, Thursday night, we're going to launch a series of live broadcasts with PATV, and we're calling it Thursday Night Live. And it'll be a mix of our open mic and then touring artists. And we're starting off with Chris Bell. Chris was probably one of the very first first touring artists to perform when we moved here 5 years ago. So he's coming back. The distinctive thing is he plays the cello like a guitar. Mm-hmm. And he also is a master looper. You've never seen anybody with so many loop stations in front of him. If you like artists like Paul Simon and Andrew Bird, he's your guy. Mm-hmm. So he'll be here Thursday night at 7, live on Community Channel 18, and also web streamed. Woo.
Yeah.
So try this out. This will be the second live show for PATV. Mm-hmm. And we'll see what happens. And then, of course, Saturday, we have live music every Saturday, not televised. Mm-hmm. And this week it's two well-known local names, Larry Mossman and Ben Schmidt. Mm-hmm. So they'll be here Saturday night. 7 o'clock.
A good time will be had by all.
Yeah. We have music every Saturday, no matter what. Mm-hmm. Switching gears, you want a few jokes?
Sure.
Okay. These are sort of autumn-related jokes, since it's appearing to be that. What did one leaf say to the other?
I don't know.
I'm falling for you. How does an elephant get out of a tree?
I don't know.
Uh-huh. Climbs onto a leaf and waits for it to fall.
Yes, okay.
How do you fix a broken pumpkin?
I don't know.
With a pumpkin patch.
Pumpkin patch.
Yeah.
Okay, huh?
Yeah. So, am I still? You want to throw me out or?
I don't know. It's been a while. I don't know what time do you have there, Bob?
About 1:45.
About 18 till.
Well, you get a couple more minutes.
Well, I have. I've been thinking. We're in a. You always say come down by the tracks for our show, and actually 2 sets of tracks here. One set of tracks directly to the north of us, where the train station is. That's where passenger train service first started in Iowa City over 150 years ago. Not that station building itself, but that's where. And there were a whole lot of related services in the neighborhood for the passengers. And every once in a while, there's an excursion train, a passenger excursion train comes through. Last one I can think of was about 2 years ago. It was for a railway passenger fan club. The train pulled up, and they put lunches on. Only the lunches weren't from Pullman or one of those. They were from Hy-Vee.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And then the train took off and went on to the next stop. So just no Harvey people, right? No Fred Harvey or anything. Anyway, you got a little hint of what it might have been like. And so I was thinking about this, and I wrote a little something on what could happen if we did that. And also, the track immediately to the south of us is the old streetcar track. You could walk right out there and catch the streetcar to Cedar Rapids. It's the Krandick line. Pretty amazing technology that we're not using at all now.
Boy, it'd be great to take a light rail to Cedar Rapids. The commute is just. I drive them every week. I have to go up there for business. And I know I'm digressing here, but I would love to be able to jump on a fairly inexpensive train. And the other thing was like a high-speed train to Chicago, because I've taught at the Old Town School of Folk Music a couple times. It doesn't pay that much, but it's kind of fun and it's kind of interesting and stuff. But if I driving to Chicago to teach a class.
Even a train that went at the speed limit of a car would be wonderful. Doesn't have to be 120 miles an hour. If it went 70 miles an hour.
If it went 70 miles an hour, and I go to Chicago and be there in a couple of hours, I could spend my time, goofing off with my laptop, looking out the window and stuff like that, as opposed to, driving and then being among all the angry travelers there. If I could just step off the train and then maybe hop on another light train and get there to where I want to go, and then maybe hang out a little bit.
Continually looking for change on your way as you're going into the city, you know, trying to find,
Oh.
throw in the little basket.
Oh, yeah, right, that's right.
Folders.
Because I have problems with that sometimes. I go through the wrong lane because everybody's like angry, everybody's in a hurry, and I don't know my way around. And then I get to the one where you're supposed to have a permit. I think, oh, there's no place to throw the money in. Oops, better drive through it, can't back up.
Yeah, how do I back out of here? Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah. Then
Yeah.
do you get a letter in the mail then later, a little charge?
I haven't so far.
Oh, okay, all right.
Of course, last time I was driving a rental car, but
They probably got it.
and it was a great big Dodge, and it had bad visibility in it. You know, I wasn't used to it, and because I was just driving another smaller car, and so I changed lanes, and I didn't see the car back there, and I changed right in front of a guy, and he honked a horn, and I went back in my lane, you know, and he was shaking his fist at me, but I had Nebraska plates on. I thought, because I had a big, like, you know, sky blue Dodge about the size of a police car, you know, and with Nebraska license plates on it. I thought, anyway, never mind. They thought I was Nebraskan instead of an Iowa. Never mind. But
I gotcha. Okay, so here's my little thing. Bring back streetcars. Restart the trains to Chicago and Omaha. Those are the two most important steps Iowa City could take if it wishes to turn into a showcase for urban development. This city, like so many others, based most of its planning on automobility, making it easy for cars to get around. But that's not the way people get around or want to get around. A streetcar line on Dubuque Street would be a major step to reduce reliance on cars and make urban life more pleasant. So would a train to Chicago. Streetcars, now called light rail, are making a comeback all over the city. Minneapolis has a line from downtown to the airport and is building another to downtown St. Paul. San Diego has a line from downtown to the Mexican border. And San Jose has several lines which crisscross the Santa Clara Valley. There's a marvelous one that goes from downtown San Jose to Cisco, which drives all of our internet. Without Cisco, we wouldn't have Wi-Fi. 10 years ago, I wrote a column for the Gazette proposing a light rail line along Interstate 380 between Cedar Rapids and Iowa City. That line could follow the Crandic tracks all the way from Uptown Bills and then out onto the freeway right-of-way in the middle. Streetcar service once did run between Cedar Rapids and Iowa City. The Cedar Rapids and Iowa City Railway and Light Company was originally called, started interurban service in 1904. It was part of a remarkable network of streetcars all over the U.S. Most of these lines have disappeared as automobiles took over the streets. Passenger service ended on the Crandic line in 1953. But Crandic has survived as a short line railroad. Opponents of light rail say it won't work here because of the low density urban sprawl, which has been the dominant pattern of development for over 50 years. But many of the California cities long associated with urban sprawl have invested in light rail. San Jose is a good example. It has light rail service on several lines all over the metro area, which run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We could do that right here. We could start with a streetcar line beginning by right here on Dubuque, the station and then we could have a train line going from right up the street where the train station is. Could go to Chicago, and it could go again if we revive passenger service. The streetcars could use the Crandic tracks. The passenger trains could use the tracks just north of Uptown Bills. These aren't difficult steps to take. Tracks are already there. In fact, nothing else would have such a positive impact as a streetcar line and revive passenger service. And just think, if you could go to Des Moines, Council Bluffs, or Sioux City on the train or on a streetcar. The biggest obstacle to reviving streetcar and passenger service revolves around the cost. It's true, it would cost several $1 million to get passenger train service restarted to Chicago. And there would have to be public funds to support service for at least several years after that. The same is true for streetcars. That could require electrification of the Crandic line or building a new one, which is quite expensive. But highways are expensive too. look at the cost for just redoing the overpass, the I-80, 380 overpass that's being proposed to be rebuilt over the next 5 years. That alone is as expensive as streetcars and trains, and those are paid for with public funds too, yet somehow we think of these expenditures differently. Terry Branstad, our governor, is a good example of this kind of thinking. He says he opposes any public funds for operating expenses for new passenger trains. Yet, he doesn't object to taking public funds for his own transportation. For most of his adult life, taxpayers have provided free public transportation for him. This includes cars, drivers, planes, and more. So, instead of thinking of trains as something special or extraordinary, why don't we think of them as just part of a balanced transportation system? Cars, streetcars, and trains can all be part of a balanced plan. Thank you.
Yeah, very good. Well, okay. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and very astute, I think. I've thought about this train thing for a long time. One guy was telling me that his father, kind of a curmudgeonly father, when they made Interstate 380, they put that in instead of just 218 between Iowa City and Cedar Rapids. He said, that's ridiculous. We don't need a 4-lane highway. But now they need to, people are talking about widening it because it's so often crammed. And that commute between, so many people go from Iowa City to Cedar Rapids. It's not very far. And, I mean, a lot of people work and live in Iowa City and work in Cedar Rapids or vice versa. And, I've certainly gone to Cedar Rapids quite a bit, and I was there today. There was some nasty traffic. If I could have jumped on a train, it'd take me right to Uptown Bills. Speaking of autumn. How am I doing for time? Hey.
About 7 more minutes.
7 more minutes. Oh boy, wow.
Yeah, 6 again.
Well, there's a piece I want to play, but it would take too long. It was my Requiem, and I might play that in public. I was playing it earlier. I want to play my 7th love song, though, real quick here. That would take a minute and a half, at most. I accidentally started playing my Requiem. You ever had that thing where you're going to go one way, but you take the wrong turn because you forget where you're going and you end up going the other place? So that's what happened to me, because they both start with I can't even play the other one.
Since we don't know the song.
Yeah, but see, the thing, it goes on for like, I put it on a record like in the 1987, and it took up pretty much most of the second side of the record. So it went on, it goes on. So anyway, so
Your version of Alice's Restaurant.
yeah, I'll play this one. This is one of my love songs. Actually, this is La bruyère pousse à l'abandon. This is for my friend Heather, and she was a great dancer, but she would dance kind of wildly. So Heather Grows Wild is La bruyère pousse à l'abondance in French. But what time do we have anyway?
Got about a minute and a half.
A minute and a half. I'm going to play part of this, and I'm going to do Tom's Guitar Show. I'm going to say goodbye. Be back at the regular show next month, and then or next week, excuse me, the regular Tom's Guitar Show from the studio. And next month, classical guitar extravaganza. Also, I'll be at the Tuscan Moon Kelowna restaurant this weekend for dinner time, Friday, Saturday night, and I'll be next month.